Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Simpson College, Coach Hoskins. Before we get into Coach Hoskins' story, let's talk to you about Simpson College. It's located in Indianola, Iowa. They have 1,201 students. They have an 89% acceptance rate and a 6-year grad rate at 70%, a 4-year grad rate at 63%. It's $63,000 before aid, $24,000 after aid. Their top 3 majors are health and wellness, business admin, and criminal justice. Coach Hoskins is going to talk to us about his time as the head coach at Simpson College. He's going to talk to us about how he got there, and we're going to learn a little bit about the program. We're going to learn about his journey, but it's not my job to tell his story. It's his job. So without further ado, this is Coach Hoskins. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Simpson College, Coach Hoskins. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carlo.
Absolutely. Coach, we do this the same way every week. I'm going to throw you in the time machine. We're going to go back to the playing days. We're going to work our way to today. Now, how does a guy from Iowa find himself in Wartburg in 2002?
No. So, being born and raised Iowan myself, graduated Grinnell High School. Back then, recruiting was a lot different. I only kind of knew what was just a few hours within kind of my radius there. So, obviously, a lot of things have changed in that time. But, honestly, Wartburg, Simpson, Central Co., a lot of those schools that were right in my backyard that, I knew coaches that went to school there. So I had familiarity with and knew that those would be a good fit for me. Going through the process, quite honestly, Simpson was the place that I really saw myself. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the head coach here. When I was a junior, I took a visit here when Coach Jim Williams was here, legendary Hall of Fame coach here. Was at Iowa State, Dowling Catholic, powerhouse, just really impacted a lot of areas in Central Iowa football. He was a guy I wanted to come play for. And during the fall of my senior year, right after we got done with our high school season, I found out Coach Williams had retired and wasn't coming back to Simpson. So in that time, certainly found Wartburg as a good place for me. Had a great experience.
Now, at what point, because I see right away, 2006, you make the transition from player to coach. At what point do you know that that's, quarterback from Wartburg? So at what point do you decide, I don't necessarily want to be running the plays as much as I want to be calling the plays?
I guess I'm unique there, or maybe high quality as far as personnel evaluation. When I was in middle school, a lot of guys want to play in the NBA, the NFL. Like I wanted to coach. Like that was it for me. I knew I wasn't going to necessarily play. I'd play as long as they let me from that side. And a big reason I wanted to be a quarterback is just I think what's put on that position, the amount that you not only have to master on the offensive side, but you got to dig in as deep as you can on the details of the defense if you're, a high-level quarterback. And we talk about that with our guys a lot. So that I thought was a great position just to learn as much about the game as I possibly could. That was a big part of me, making a decision to go to Wartburg is that staff and, really allowing me to expand my knowledge of the game as much as possible and really get a hands-on look at, knowing I wanted to coach, how it was going to work out. So,
now, I have to ask, a lot of the coaches, I would say, I shouldn't say most, 50-50, It's a split.
Sure.
Was there an opportunity at Wartburg, or were you given advice that maybe it was better to spread your wings, go somewhere else, and come work your way back?
Yeah, that piece of it was always impressed upon me. Not necessarily at that point, but just being a young coach and just working for a lot of different guys that had different, piece of their hiring cycle. I always thought as a young coach, it was good to kind of spread your wings, get a chance to learn from a lot of different people. I was excited to take a job in North Carolina, not only because it was, half a country away from what I was used to and what I knew, and was great. Loved it. I was 2 hours from the beach. I was right by the Triangle there, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Durham. It was a great time. But also knew that I missed winter. So I wanted to come back home in that piece of it. So the other part of it was like that was the only opportunity I had. It was $8,000 living in a freshman dorm and cutting the grass in between 2 days and coaching receivers. Hey, I wanted to be a football coach, so all those things were easy. Yes.
That's not a bad gig. That's not a bad gig.
Yeah,
I cut grass. I understand.
No, I didn't have any problem with any of that. Maybe living in the freshman dorm, but with our schedule, you're barely there.
Now, 1 year there and then 1 year at St. Cloud State, both as an assistant. Why the 1 year? Was that just that?
Yeah.
Was the program and then you moved on, or was St. Cloud State a different opportunity?
Yeah, no, good question. And obviously, young coaches, sometimes they can't control that, and sometimes they're intentional with trying to move up the ladder. And one of the big things for me is I decided early on that I wanted to be a little bit in control of the places I go. And as a coach, I mean, that's pretty uncommon, honestly. And a big reason where I found, small college football being a good fit for me, from that side of it. So we've been very fortunate in all the places that we've been. The reason I went out to North Carolina is we had some connections with their staff. Jack Kinn, who was the head coach out there, worked with Rick in a number of different places, including Warford. And, like I said, that was the only opportunity I had. So at that point, it seemed like a pretty good decision to pack up the car and drive for 24 hours, But with getting back to St. Cloud, a couple different pieces into that. I mean, one, that would include a master's degree, and that's something that I wanted to pursue. And, I was obviously able to do that for free up there. So that was a good piece of it. And certainly the second is now my future wife, was still living here locally, and we moved to St. Cloud together. So there were certainly professional but personal reasons for that too. Yeah.
Now, you get your master's degree, you get the 2 years under your belt.
Yep.
Why was it time to come back home?
Yeah. Honestly, I remember I was set to come back to St. Cloud for another year. There was actually transition with the coaching staff. Coach Hedberg, legendary, coach, certainly in the Dakotas area, finished up at NDSU and tutoring a bunch of NFL quarterbacks. He actually moved on, during that winter. So there's a lot of transition. And as a young GA, we were gobbling up responsibility like crazy. And I got to coach quarterbacks. Which normally a GA would not do that at that level. Mm-hmm. I got to coach quarterbacks for a spring, got to coach running backs, through my time there, our receivers. So a lot of different pieces where I got experience was great. But we're breaking down film, during the summer, just getting prepared for the season, and got a call and some things that kind of moved at Warford, and there was a full-time position that was available to me. And, between, getting married and certainly that opportunity for a full-time spot, but also being back in my alma mater with, and working for the guy that I played for. And, one of my best friends, was on staff there, and Chris Winter, who's now the head coach. So, it was an easy yes, for me when that call came.
And does the familiarity with the ARC for you make that transition a little bit more appealing as well? Is that, you kind of know those other teams, there's a little bit more from your playing days that are like,
Yeah, no, I think that made me really comfortable. And I think any coach in hindsight would tell you that when you're a young coach, man, you screw a lot of stuff up. you learn from that, right? So, as confidence, I felt like I had all the answers back there in 2008. Oh, man, there's so many things to look back at and just like, man, good thing we had a bunch of good players. That was, that was really the thing that drove us. But I think that made me an easy fit for what they were looking for, certainly, in looking for somebody to coach their quarterbacks and their receivers and, familiar with the scheme. Especially, it was a last-minute hire. It was the end of July is when that happened. Eric Kaler, who was my quarterback coach and OCI played for there, was the head coach at Warford. Last minute, got the OC job at Grand Valley State, and that was something he couldn't turn down. Was there for a long time before bouncing around a few different, FCS jobs, and now obviously is in Minnesota, up there as well. So, but he coached me for 4 years. I started for him for 3 years. It was an easy, like, hey, Reed will come in and understand your pass game, right? And coaching it, I certainly had a lot of room to grow, from that side, looking back. But certainly was a good fit for both sides.
Now, before we go into the other three positions, obviously the third being where you are currently, I've had a couple coaches talk about the carousel and the
Yeah.
reason that they stayed where they are, and mainly I'm talking about Joe Smith. Um, he started our season off, and that was one of the big things I asked him. How have you stayed at Linfield for 20 plus years? And his answer was, I didn't want to uproot my family. I like small college ball, and I didn't want to do the carousel of every 2 or 3 years having to look. Is that is that a similar feeling there? Is that you love the? I mean, you
Yeah.
played small college ball, so it fits.
Yep. Yep. No question. And the longer I've been around, specifically the Division III level, and I mean, man, I have been lucky enough to bet in some of the best leagues at our level for sure. Seen a lot of really, really good programs and how they operate. It's what fits me, certainly my personality, my coaching style as well from that side, but having the stability to, be able to not necessarily be, at a place for only 1 year consistently as you jump around and not really having a lot of feel for that. I was lucky to have a lot of control over, the areas and certainly the cities for my growing family as well, which is kind of wild. I've got 3 kids born in 3 different states, so a big part of it was, why Simpson was such a good fit for me, and we'll get into it, I know, later on, but is that I would have a little bit more control, and this is the place that I want my second grader to graduate high school from. Like, that is absolutely the plan. I grew up an hour from here. So,
Right.
That's definitely a big piece of it. And that mindset, I think Coach really, really, laid it out pretty well.
And then, so back to when we're looking at your resume, you go from, and you talked about some of the leagues that you that you played in, coached in. You play in the ARC, you come back to the ARC, then it's just a small league in Wisconsin. They're not. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. It's the WIAC, and Wisconsin lacrosse. Now, how do you find yourself over there in Wisconsin from 11 to 15?
Yeah. Probably a little in over my head, to be perfectly honest with you. I was 26 years old when I took that job as a coordinator in Wisconsin League, and that alone makes it a no-brainer to take that job, right?
Right.
Was I ready for it? I don't know. I don't know about that. Our DC at Wartburg, we just came off a really good run. During those 3 years that I was there, 8, 9, and 10, went to the playoffs twice, won the conference, twice there, made it to the quarterfinals against Whitewater one of those years, and that was some good football. But got a taste of that Wisconsin league, and Coach Detweiler, about this time, honestly, was hired as the head coach at lacrosse when Larry Terry was hired there, and it immediately talked to me about it in the process about joining them there as the offensive coordinator. So it was something that we were excited about. And in hindsight, there was a lot of things that I needed to prepare myself better for. But a great opportunity to be a part of that thing. Just over spring break, we were up there, seeing some friends and showing my kids the bluffs, and certainly that setting is pretty unique. So. In addition to one of my daughters being born there, it was a pretty special time in our lives in the 5 years that we spent. And
then from the WIAC, move on to another small conference. I believe it's the CCIW. I don't think anybody really plays in that conference other than, your opening day opponent for this year starting, but back-to-back years. But so you make your way to Illinois Wesleyan. You're there from 16 to 22. So you got to go through the whole COVID thing in there too. But what was that experience like?
Oh, great. Lacrosse, we really enjoyed, certainly as part of that. A lot of different responsibilities there, in that way. Was really excited about IW because it was 100% coaching. And that was something I was really excited about. In addition to that, Bloomington Normal, anybody that has never been to Bloomington Normal, it was one of my favorite places. It really is. A great place. It's like a suburb without a city, just dropped right in the middle of central Illinois. And, Illinois State being literally right up the road allowed and afforded me and our staff a lot of opportunities to get to know a lot of different coaches there. Coach Spack's guy I consider a friend. I spent a lot of time at their camps during the summer recruiting. So there were so many things there personally as well as professionally, playing in the, arguably one of the best leagues in the country, and Teams like North Central and Wheaton, and and getting a chance to win some conference championships during that time, which was pretty exciting for me. So honestly, if it wasn't a place like Simpson, that had this opportunity, I'd still be there. I really would be.
And then I think you answered this at the beginning when we first started talking about how you end up in Wartburg, but why was the Simpson job in 2023 a place that you really wanted to attack?
Yeah. I got to the point, and there was definitely a time, like early on, I was like, hey, I want to be a head coach. I really did. I was high school or college. That was my plan growing up. And then I got to a point during, my career where I was having so much fun spending all my time on the whiteboard and game planning and all, and you really get down into the weeds there. And I was looking at the office next door and be like, man, I don't know if I want to deal with all that. Maybe I can wait a little bit on being a head coach. And honestly, like in the last, about 5 years of my time at Illinois Wesleyan, I knew that I was ready for that next step, and was actively, looking at different opportunities, and, some more seriously than others, obviously, as you do, but knowing that, there's a lot of good opportunities close to home from that side of things. But I always saw Simpson as, just a phenomenal location, all right, to provide a traditional college football experience. It really is. We're a small school. We're proud of that. There's a lot of things that affords you and benefits you in the classroom, and certainly, athletically as well. But our proximity to the Des Moines Metro and the way that we recruit, and where a lot of great football is here in the state of Iowa, so both personally and professionally, it made a lot of sense, for what we're looking for. As soon as that job posted open, you could ask, the Marty Bell, the athletic director that hired me here, I had an email, sent to him within an hour. So it was no brainer. That was the place that I certainly saw myself, and things aligned, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. I'll tell you that much.
Now, before we get into Simpson, I got to ask you this question. So when you're interviewing for a position, coach, and then you move on to the interview for an OC position, right? So that's two different. One, you got to know really the X's and O's for that specific position.
Yep.
Then when you get to the offensive coordinator, you're more, I need to know how everybody works together, right?
Yeah.
What's the interview process like for a head coach? Because I got to assume they already know that the X's and O's.
Oh, yeah. No, they don't care about football at all. It's unbelievable, right? The only people really ask those questions are the players, right? They want to know what style of offense, and whether you like to run the ball or not, or whatever it may be. So, and the biggest thing there isn't necessarily what you're telling them as much as like how you tell them, right? And the way you present yourself, and just, trying to, gain some trust, through your own confidence and in things that you believe in. I, as a head coach, man, that was a big part of it, is you meet with a lot of different groups, and you really get a feel for how heavy the administrative side of it is, when it comes down to it. And that's one of the things, honestly, I've been so excited about. We shuffled around our staff a little bit, and I'm getting back to coaching quarterbacks again. My first 3 years, my first spring, I was coaching, helping with the DBs. I was kind of walking around just trying to learn how to, be a head coach, and then receivers my first year, and running backs the last two, and certainly you're coaching with that position group, but jumping into the quarterback room, obviously, you get a lot more involved, with things here moving forward. So this is the most I've talked football in an off season since I've been here, and it's put me in a lot better mood. My wife's definitely noticed that. And no, it's really good as we've kind of built our program last couple of years to a point where, we're always growing, but a lot of things are a little bit more set in those foundational pieces. And, we get to kind of focus on some different parts of taking the next step as a program.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, it's been a progression every year that you've been there. 2023, I think it was just below a 500 record. I think 2024, 500 record. And then last year, the 6-4 overall, 5-3 in the conference. Wanted to make sure I didn't mess that number up. Before we get into all that, tell me what is a Simpson guy? I have a specific question. You pointed out you were the running backs coach in a different show last year. We had a friend of, not a friend, a Simpson. We had a Simpson College running back on our Voices in the Stands podcast, so I'm going to ask you for an update on our guy there. But before we get into that, tell me what is a Simpson guy? What are we recruiting? Minus the fact that he has to be able to play football, because you wouldn't be recruiting him to play football if he couldn't.
Right. No, and that's certainly the given piece. It's important, obviously, to us to have a fit from that standpoint, have a blueprint for, hey, this is what your 4 years should look like. Now, there's variances to that, but we really try to get as detailed as we can in that process there. But, they need to be a serious student. That's definitely where it starts. And by that, I don't mean they have to be 4.0 and perfect ACT. And God knows I wasn't any of those things. All right. But they have to be serious about getting their education here. And that's a conversation we have up front from the juniors that I'm reaching out to right now and just starting the process with. Like that is something that they need to not necessarily have all figured out and know exactly what they're doing for the rest of their life there, but they need to take ownership and, certainly their educational experience. Otherwise, I'm chasing around, kicking butt to go to class. And, that's less time I can spend on other things that'll make them better football players. Really come down to it, and that's a better program. So, there needs to be a commitment there, and that's got to be important for sure. But beyond that, what their character is and what they're made out of when it comes right down to it. A lot of times it's hey, is that guy a good dude? Right? Does he fit in our locker room? Does he interact with our players? And that's something that we talk to our players and our coaches. We don't offer a lot of guys before we really have a lot of face-to-face interaction, typically when they get to campus. And that's different for Division III in a lot of ways, just because we want to make sure that they're a good fit. Number one, they get to school. But, secondly, that they're going to add to our program, not be those guys that detract, right? That 10-80-10 principle. We don't need guys that we already know are in that bottom 10%, right? We need those 80+ types of guys that are going to help us move this thing forward. So, for us, it's how they interact. Not only with our players, how they interact with their parents. I actually, when I was at lacrosse, Coach Detweiler, I learned this early on. We had a guy that was over there, using language in an area in our cafeteria that shouldn't be, was treating his mom really poorly, cussing her. They got back from lunch and, player kind of gave us a heads up and we kicked him out for the visit. You're not a fit for us. Go home. This is why. Right. And, he was a good player. He played in our league and, from that side of it. But, from that side, it's important to us to make sure that it's a good fit all the way around, right? That they're going to connect with our guys in the locker room. They have that growth mindset where I'm continually trying to be better than I was yesterday. And, you can see that as a kind of a, cliche, phrase from that side of things. But when it comes down to it, guys, they're mature enough to understand what that means. And it's our job to make sure we lead them to the point where, they want to invest in themselves in our program because it's the right thing to do and they know what it's going to do for them.
Right. Now, how important, how much are you guys using it? How much are you looking at the transfer portal? Because again, we've had a lot of people, we've had a handful of coaches, and I'll use lacrosse last year. Coach Janney flat out said, you're stupid if you think that any coach that looked you in the face and said, we've never even looked at our password. They're looking. Everybody's looking. And on the other side of that, has the NIL stuff started to trickle down to the Division III level? And not so much in the sense, I know there's people that are using NIL in ways for charity and whatnot. I'm more asking, are there schools out there right now that actually have a war chest, so to speak, that they're out there putting money into? Alumni are putting money. I know giving days are going on. This is a big time of year for that. Is that something that we are seeing in the Division III level that people are fundraising for separately?
Yes. No. And I think that's what we're moving to. Not to the same scale, obviously is Texas and Alabama, but they are. And we, each of my last couple of years, and we've had a couple guys have smaller, NIL deals with, hometown car dealerships or whatever it may be, right? So, hey, to a college kid, a couple $1,000 makes a big difference, right? So, not to mention they get to learn about taxes. That's the fun part. But beyond that, no, there's teams in our league, and I'm not going to call them out, but they're pretty public with it. That they have a money guy that provides, here's an allotment for football, and how they're using it, how they're navigating that, I don't know. But it is there, and we're competing against it already. from that side of it. So, I'm really interested to see how this continues to evolve. It's conversations that we have on, different avenues we can look into. We're actually through a transition with our athletic director retired, here just this different off season. So really, looking forward to, certainly working with a new guy with some fresh ideas on how to move that forward and how that impacts us. Because I know a lot of our coaches certainly see it coming. We don't all know exactly what to do with it yet, but, really putting some thoughts down on paper and, starting to come up with a game plan for how we can, be a little bit more involved in that side of it is inevitable. It really is.
And what are you looking for if you do bring somebody in from, let's say, the transfer portal? Is that a guy that you already recruited maybe, and he went on, maybe wanted the D2, the D1, I want to post it on the social media, I want to go be a D1 athlete, and then, man, this isn't really fun. My friends are XYZ and they're here. How does that work?
Yeah, no, that's, and Coach Janis, who I've known for a number of years too, he's exactly right. Everybody is looking at it to some degree. And if you're not, then you're just completely, it's when it comes down to it. But now it doesn't mean that we're just in there like raking through it all the time. We've actually I'd say we pulled back on the amount of like cold calling and just, straight up trying to poach guys at different times. When we have a need and, in certain position groups every spring you do, we'll certainly be a little bit more aggressive, whether it's through the portal or, late guys in that class, whatever it is, to try to find the right fit. We have 6 guys, join us here at semester. Every single one of those guys is the guy that we recruited before and at least had some variant of relationship with. And some guys, it was, a few contacts early on in the process. And, the majority of the guys actually had visited campus and really got down to those final couple schools. So that was always kind of the plan, is to have that type of transfers, just because we are so relationship driven. And I think especially a semester when you're trying to like meet somebody, all right, fill a need within a week and a half, get all the hoops through financial aid and that side of it, and really build a relationship. Campus is shut down that entire time. How are you supposed to get a feel for if it's a fit? It's hard to do it just start from scratch there to me. So now, if the right guy calls, we're always going to listen and have those conversations and engage that process if they're a fit. But that's where we see the most success, is those guys that we've recruited bouncing. And it's been good to us.
And the other side of that is, would you like to see the NCAA kind of come down and move the portal? I know there's a lot of problems when you get that opening window where a lot of D3 schools, if you don't have a J term, kids start the semester, and if you're not in a butt in a seat and paid and ready to go, then it can cause some problems. So is that something you would like to see them talk through some of these meetings?
Yeah, that would help. There's I got a list of those types of things. With our non-traditional, days.
We're gonna get to it.
We're gonna find nobody else. Like, what do we do, right? So anyway, there's a number of different things in there, but no, I think that would help, certainly, if that got pushed back. We all know that's going to be driven by what they do at the Division I level, and there's certainly a lot of, there's more issues there than there are for us as far as how that all fits. So, no, I think that would help having that, but again, it's such a tight time frame that if you don't have some sort of previous connection or relationship, I think it's difficult. And then, I'm right or wrong. It's just, that's kind of how we approached it.
Right. Now, another complaint I think that a lot of us have at the Division III level, and this isn't bash on the NCAA, I'm just pointing out the things that I've heard and seen. And I have a question as a former Division III player. I'm really glad that I'm not like some of the coaches that were only allowed to use a tennis ball at spring ball. I know a lot of the coaches are really excited because now you get some helmets and some thud action going on, which is great. At what point do we let football be football? Division I, Division II, they do football in the spring the same way as each other. I don't necessarily think a D3 spring game needs to happen, but I think, especially for the big boys up front, it seems like a pretty intricate part of their specific job is to come off the ball and hit the guy in front of them. And you don't normally want to do that without the proper equipment. Would you like to see spring ball expanded?
Yeah, no question. And I do think we're in a spot where, you can talk more and more seriously about it. I mean, you already have, 4 practices and helmets and shoulder pads, right? So you have to dedicate training. Biggest thing to overcome, right, is that strain personnel, small schools, and everybody has to be creative with that. But I can see it expand here pretty quickly. I think it only makes sense to open it up where you can have lowers on there too, just from a safety standpoint. But I mean, I think most guys will tell you, that you can do about everything and others that you want to other than tackle live, and we wouldn't do that.
Well, I think that has been the argument that I've heard from, not from coaches as much as I've put that out there into the toxic place that is social media. Everybody has an opinion. And one of the big opinions that comes back is, well, these coaches they'll go out there and it'll be Oklahoma's and Bull in the Ring will be back. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't played football since 2014. Bull in the Ring has been gone. I might have been in middle school the last time I did that, and I don't think we were allowed. So the statute of limitations for those guys is gone. I could say that we may have done it. I don't think you guys are going to do that. I don't think we're bringing Bull in the Ring back, and I really don't think we're going to see Oklahoma's at 6 o'clock in the morning on a nice spring day. I could be wrong.
Not a Simpson.
So, Coach, before I get into 2025, and then obviously we want to talk about 26 as well, let's talk about some of the technology that's coming down. As a quarterback, how do you like the idea of the in-helmet communication coming down? Would you have liked being able to have Coach in the ear until the 15-second mark?
I've tried to put myself in those shoes a lot. And I think probably no. Coach Kaler would probably never shut up. And I love the guy, but he'd be talking in my ear the whole time. I wouldn't be able to think, Shoot, he might argue that that would have been better for us. But no, it certainly would have helped in a huge way. I mean, especially with us. I mean, we were such a check with me system, everything at the line of scrimmage, and that was one of my strengths. I understood the run game that way. I mean, now we get to the point where, I mean, you got it on video and all these different things to the point where, I mean, you could radio that thing in and check it as you want to. And, I think that's the part that I'm excited and anxious to learn a little bit. We just got our systems in, and we'll be using them during the spring and, testing them out on how it all works and what buttons what, and, but then also when to shut up. I think that's a piece of it too, is get the play in there and make sure the quarterback can communicate in the huddle from that side of things. And, then when he's out of it, you still got time. And what are the things that you need to relay to him before you get cut off, right? So I think that's the piece that us as a staff, we have to kind of figure out as well is, what's that happy medium, and working with our quarterbacks, like, hey, man, we need to have a sign for when you're good or bad, or when to shut up, or, whatever it might be. But I mean, that's the thing that I'm excited about. It's going to make the game better. It definitely cuts out a lot of different things, like, oh, hey, how about, this wristband number or that? Well, I'm like, wristband 42, I mean, it's, I mean, a lot of those things, I think, just, makes things go a little bit smoother, and the no huddle side of things, which you can communicate. I'll be really interested to see how different offensive teams approach it. Because, I mean, you want to play with a lot of pace and as fast as possible. This just allows you to go faster. I mean, it really does with that communication. But so many people have come up with such great systems on how this all fits and how expedited everything can be. They may not want to, pull back from that. So I'm interested to see how it evolves and fits together. Here as we move forward. I think we've got a pretty good plan for what we intend to do. But there's going to be a lot of adjustments between now and September.
And then the technology, that's this year's technology boom. Last year's technology boom was everybody was allowed to have up to 18 iPads. And I will say this, and when people watch this, they're probably going to get tired of me saying it, but I will continue to reiterate it because it's the number that we were given. I was told that you were allowed to have up to 18 iPads on the sideline, and I have yet to find a Division III program that is fully utilizing all 18. I imagine we're not using 18 people and 18 iPads at Simpson. But why 18 was the number? I don't know which staff has 18 guys on it that could also
somebody maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, how many iPads are we deciding to? Now I know COVID, everybody had to get heat checked, and so we had iPads, but I still haven't found anybody with 18. How did you think that improved the game last year? Obviously, being able to show your guys stuff, and does that lead us to more of a blanket system of replay, or not necessarily? I don't know about scoring plays yet, because I know it's division. Everybody's got different ways that they film. My question more relates to a specific play, a specific penalty that can cost a player 4 quarters of one of possibly only 40 games that they get to play in college. So those are the two questions. How did the iPads help with having it readily available? And then does that lead us to maybe a blanket system like they do? I know the Northwest Conference does replay. I believe, I think I found out the OAC has confirmed it, and I think the Centennial are the ones that I'm confident saying that they use it. Do you think that's coming broad?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you just, it really is. Division I, those upper levels kind of forecast the future for us. It's just a matter of time. The tablets are a good example of it. They're certainly the replay, and we had some conversations as soon as the C2P was allowed, just on like how we want to handle it. Just a quick Zoom with the coaches and certainly our commissioner, and just make sure, all right, this is what we want to do, right? Officially, that's nobody's going to hold this thing up, and because I'm sure there will be every conference and every small school is talking about budget and how that all fits, right? We don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage. Whoever that team is or teams that are in the playoffs, we don't want to be sitting there on this sideline not having what they have, because it's going to be legal there, right? So that's the thing that drives our conference, and I'm appreciative to be a part of a group that really thinks that way for sure. So I do. And talking with our director of officials, it's common. It's just a matter of in working out the kinks on how that's going to move forward. Certainly the targeting side of things, it's breezy. Here's the iPad, look at it, right? Make a decision. It can be as simple as that. Now, there's going to be a different process for that.
Designate someone, they stand off they got a circle around them or a blue hat or whatever you want to give them, but they'll have a specific iPad for the official.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that piece of it, I think, is just the start, and it's just kind of giving everybody the opportunity to kind of work through the kinks. So now this is a rule. At least you're not starting from zero to go to there.
Right.
So I do think it's a big piece of it. How the tablets have worked for us, I think it's been great. Just like everything else, you gotta get used to it, right? There were games last year that I didn't even look at an iPad, not the entire time. Now, I wasn't calling any plays, we have offense, defense, and special teams coordinator, and my role was different, at that point. But a lot of our guys, it's, hey, reminder, you got this iPad over there, so you can look through it. And I think it, our line coach, instead of like, hey, Jimmy, was that a 2 or a 2I in there? It's like, okay, well, coach, I think it was a 3, and that, no, there you go. You can look at it right on the iPad. You can get to better solutions and better conversations. I think that's helpful part. And that's what I'm excited to work with our quarterbacks, this year, that way, and how we can, get to a lot of those solutions a lot faster by being able to chance to see it.
Now let's talk about 2025, 6-4, as I said earlier, 6-4 overall, 5-3 in the conference. What, now that the cloud is, the dust is settled, we're in the rear view for 25, spring ball's here. What's the final takeaway of the 25 season?
Yeah, a lot of things. It was a wild year. It was a season where, if you really want to, have a good day and think about what could be, oh shoot, man, we could have been, 8-2, if you really want it. This goes differently. Every football coach has a really good way of justifying those things, right? And, but on the other side of it, we won a couple of really tight games that we didn't play our best and could have lost, multiple 1-point games, right? So, I think that's a big thing that going into this offseason, we all had to understand that we were 2 points away from being 4-6 and feeling worse than we did a year ago, right? So, I mean, it's been exciting to go from 3-7 to 5-5 to 6-4, and hey, you see that upward trend. But I mean, realistically, last year was about a group of seniors that were all in their first semester of freshman year when I got hired here. I mean, the whole previous staff had been let go, and they didn't really know what to do. They're coming off back-to-back 1-9 seasons. A lot of questions that way. And right. The guys that stuck around and seeing them go from that, one-win team to, certainly, I mean, the only teams that beat us in our conference were, top 25 teams, in my opinion, Warford, Central, and Co. And that's usually the way it is about every year until we can crack into that next one, that's for sure. So, I think that's the piece of it for us is we have had some really, really special leaders in that class that help just really not only set the foundation, but kind of leave a legacy in motion, is the term that I've used. And it's like, all right, guys, we've done a lot of the dirty work here. Now you got to do the fun stuff. It's hard, this next year, but it's pretty fun. Like, here's the opportunity to play in high leverage games. Our guys are excited about it. They are.
Well, and I talked to you about at the beginning here. I said there was a guy I wanted to get an update on how his season went. DeMarco Young. I want to hear. I got to hear. I heard his side of how he got recruited. I want to hear it from you. How does that all come about? And what is he like on a day to day?
Well, first of all, Marco is ornery. He's a fun-loving, 20-year-old now, from that side of things. And he's a college guy just like everybody else. And I think that's the part that anybody that feels uncomfortable interacting with DeMarco as a deaf person, you kind of have to work through. And that was the piece of it that he had a lot of different opportunities. Some more serious than others, I guess, at different levels. But he really had a ton of different opportunities, and there was a lot of places that were like, "Ooh, I'm not dealing with that." That's just the truth. When we connected early on, I was very, very transparent about I don't know how this. I don't have all the answers for this, but I can tell you that I'm excited about it. I'd like to see how this fits, and very willing to learn. And that's, I think that's served us all pretty well as we've moved through it for the most part. So, I'm sure that he has a lot more stories about the whole recruiting process than I did, but we were lucky to get on him early, had him on our campus early on, came back for a game, got a chance to meet a lot of our players and just how he was welcomed each time, not only by our coaches, but the players in our program, and how willing they were to learn about him and interested they were from that side of things, on top of him being just a phenomenal athlete. I think he made him feel at home, just like anybody else.
Well, you make sure you let him know we said hi from the group of voices. And tell us a little bit. I was looking at the schedule for 26. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to open back up with Augustana, and then we got Crown. Yep. And then I saw there's a Texas school on there. There's a Texas school, and I think a lot of eyebrows got raised. It was last week you guys released the schedule, and I know there's a couple group chats that I'm in, and this schedule got sent, and it was, I'll give you the 3 takeaways that came from your schedule. Last year, it was a younger team, kind of surprised a lot of people. Howard Payne better be ready to go when they play you guys. And the voice of Augustana told me that game easily could have gone the exact opposite way. So those are the 3 things that we heard. What goes into making – I know the scheduling part is kind of right now, everybody's looking, as you pointed out, with the technology. Everybody's looking at the budgetary stuff. You're trying to keep things travel-wise as much as you can. Yeah. Limited. Now, they're going to come to you guys this year, and then I'm guessing next year you'll go to them?
No. So it's a 1-year deal. Okay. So this was something that was kind of a scramble, right? When Luther made the decision that they were leaving our league, right, that left a hole in all of our schedules. So we completely reconfigured the conference schedule and just left those dates open for week 3 and week 4, and just said all the coaches go have at it, go fill it with that 10th game, right? So unfortunately, I had I had an agreement with the team that was local and had been a playoff team and that type of thing that would have been a really good fit, and things kind of fell apart there. So got connected, with the athletic director down there at Howard Payne, and talked through some different options. And it's a 1-year deal is what it is. And we talked neutral site and kind of trying to find some different places that were really kind of halfway in between, Indianola and Brownlee. And the more we talked about it, they brought it up that, they would host a lot of the pieces of it if we were at the Star in Frisco, the Cowboys practice facility.
Okay.
They got a beautiful indoor facility there. They hosted a couple bowl games this year. And I thought that would be an unbelievable opportunity for our guys, just an experience that, you don't get every year from that side. So yeah, we're going to configure the travel and everything to get down there with the budget and that side of it. But, it's going to be a fun trip for us, and it does put us 6 games on the road and only 4 at home. But, hey, it's a common opponent, Division III opponent that, obviously will help in our schedule compared to playing an NAIA team or, shoot, there are a lot of options, people that solve openings in their schedule this late in the game. That's for sure.
Now, Coach, it's interesting you brought up that it's a common opponent. This was bleeding into the. It's like you're reading. It's like you're reading what's going on up here, and there's not much going on up there. But it's this has been on my mind for about 2 years now. We have this system now that we follow, and there are a lot of people out there that are smarter than me about it.
Oh, yeah.
Pittsburgh alumni is one of them. That they put it out there all the time, and they do a really good job. I don't know how to understand it. I still don't understand how certain teams can go all year and not lose a game, and they're not the number 1 seed in the dance. But this MPI thing, how much do you look at it? Does it help that one of the guys that breaks it all down is an alumni that you maybe, hey, maybe you're looking at here?
Yeah, it's it's right when they came out and certainly changed things. Just trying to wrap your head around it, was the first goal, right? And all right, so what does this all mean? How does this apply to us? And like right now, trying to apply in it to our yearly schedule that's already in place and see how that affects it and ways you can improve it. I mean, I think you see with some of the aggressive scheduling, by a number of, look at Warburg's schedule. Shoot, there's a bunch of teams. There's always Wisconsin League teams now playing some of the best, Midwest, opponents that way, which is awesome. It really is. We're going to play Eau Claire in a couple of years. So, we're looking forward to that piece of it for sure. But I mean, for me, we have to be aware of it. But with where we're at on that side of it, our focus is just on the task at hand, to be honest with you. And, certainly if I was in Chris Winter's position at Warburg and, you're winning it every single year, and then you're probably a little bit more dialed into those things, as you're scheduling for the future. And that's definitely something I've asked some different people some questions about how that fits and how different scenarios would help. And, certainly having a lot of data out there from guys that are a heck of a lot smarter than me, it definitely helps. That's for sure. I think when it really comes down to it, you got to put together the best schedule you can. Well, that's the point you can't get around when it comes down to it.
Now, Coach, with the playoffs, are we at the right spot now? Is this 40 the right one? And I asked that, and I haven't really posed it this way to any of the other coaches this season, but there are some conferences that get an automatic bid and maybe don't have to play X amount of teams just because of the way the conference is set up. Now, I know that there's, you get put on a probationary thing, it's bring some teams in, but then you're really just moving that needle, right? Because then the next conference that already has an automatic qualifier, now they have to scramble to get other people. Is there a better way to do the system, or is this good right now and let's not touch it because it could be worse?
No, it definitely could be worse. There's no question about it. And some of the matchups, regionally, everybody's always going to complain about that. Even when I was a player, we'd always play, Bethel or somebody, a top 10 matchup in the first round before going out to play Linfield in the second round. And man, that's why my playing career never went past Linfield, there. So I got a lot of respect for Coach. But when it comes right down to it, I mean, I think it's hard. I think it's hard from that standpoint to, really make a difference in the way that you schedule or whatever, however you look at that.
Right. Right. Well, and the other big part of the expanding it is we're already now, I think, second week of January playing the national championship. At this point, if you expand it any further, you would either have to move the start of the season, right? And which would probably cost teams a week of camp, or would bring people back, and then there's a logistical move there.
Yeah,
plus you still got the logistical move on the other end, where's the game going to be played? How are we getting there? Again, there's only two teams that really got to worry about it, but there's still logistics that go into the rest of that. Coach, what's the message for the Simpson alumni that may be tuning in for 2026?
Well, first and foremost, come to our golf outing on July 13th. We just confirmed that this morning, so we'll definitely be pushing that out. But I mean, no different than when I was hired. We want to play a brand of football that everybody associated with Simpson be proud of, right? Just not with the toughness, certainly the winning percentage. I mean, we all want to win championships, and that's why I'm here. There's no question about it. And it's been done here in the past, and it'll be done here in the future. I really do believe that. But more than anything else, I mean, we had so much fight in us that we just don't quit. And that's the piece of it that our guys really learned the last couple of years is it don't matter at times what the scoreboard says. Like, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep doing things the right way because it's going to benefit you in the future, whether it's in the fourth quarter or, certainly whether it's, 4 years from now when you're out there in the real world. And, a lot of those things that apply that anybody that played the game understands. So, hopefully they are paying attention and are proud of the progress that we made. And we still certainly have a lot left in the tank.
And then what's the significance for you, small college ball player? What's the significance of Division III?
Yeah, I think it allows you to grow the most, as a person. I mean, it really does. And, it's moving more and more at the higher levels, certainly where, not even just the Division I levels, but even, I mean, there's 2 levels, at the NAI levels where, I mean, obviously there's a lot of good programs at every place, but the way recruits see that process is very transactional. I mean, and coaches have to approach it very transactional. Hey, you're going to do this because I'm paying you that in that way, right? And everybody wants to have their education be as cheap as possible, obviously, but understanding the experience that you're going to have, right? And whether it's a fit for the goals that you have in the future or not, right? I think too many times guys get caught up on just the football when, college football is so much more to it than just the football. And, sometimes guys don't realize that until it's too late.
Right. All right, Coach. These questions have nothing to do with football. They're only about you. It's our Fast Five.
Right.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
On the edge of town, whatever that may be. I like to be close to things, but I like to have my space and my solitude a bit.
What's the most important lesson that you've learned thus far over your career?
Oh, continue to ask questions and listen, right? I mean, I think that, as I've moved into, coordinator roles, certainly become the head coach, being very upfront with not knowing it all. I mean, the things that you do believe in, certainly you want to make sure that you're expressing that in the right ways. But when things aren't working, I mean, taking time to really dig in and ask questions and, not just point out the problems, but to listen, get response and apply things. I think just continue to learn, is the biggest part of it.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing? What would you go back and tell middle school you were doing if you weren't coaching?
You know what? Maybe being like a sports broadcaster, that might be part of it. So I've been told that before, from time to time. So
you do have a nice radio voice.
Yeah, it'd be something to do with sports. That was always such a big part of my life. So if it wasn't that, I mean, teaching probably.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Ooh. I'm not good at receiving compliments. I'm honest with you. So, I don't even know. Yeah.
The other side of compliments. What's the best insult you've ever got?
Yeah. No, I think my first time after graduating, going back to visit Warburg, Coach Kaler, all right, they had built a new building and walked me around. One of the other coaches did. I walk in there, first time I'd seen him in at least a year. He's like, "All right, you just gave an A tour to a B player." So I was like, "All right, Coach. Well, I'm glad that we're still being honest with each
other." What's one piece of advice that you would give to the younger coaches down there that are watching right now, that are maybe either those guys that in May that the clipboard becomes part of them and they're getting their masters, or they're doing the GA stuff or whatnot, or those guys that have now been through that system and are maybe at a coordinator position, at a position coach position, and they're looking to make that next step? What would your advice be to them?
I think you want to prepare yourself, obviously, to present the football side of it, but I think it's important. As I've interviewed for different jobs, I've been really lucky to have a great coaching tree of guys that are all sorts of different places and are always willing to answer questions, not only about like, all right, what do you think about this schematically, but like, what types of questions are they going to ask me? Like, if I was interviewing for that job at your place, like, what things do I need to prepare for? What are the important things that you look for when you're hiring? And, early on, I think that helped me get an understanding of the way I want to present myself, and, and ultimately just being genuine, just being who I was, I think was the trick more than anything else. But then on the other side of it, now being in the hiring process at different times during the year, those are things that, I still pull out my notebook and kind of go through some of that stuff and review it, because there's so many other things than just like, the football side of it, right? It's like when I'm hiring a young guy, it's like, okay, does the guy really love football? Like, is he going to do the things here without like wanting to go home, right? Like wanting to count the hours from that side of it. And yeah, some of the stuff is out, right? But you're going to show up and you're going to do the job when it comes right down to it. The second part is like, are they willing to learn, right? And committed to that process? Because if they already come in and they think, hey, I'm gonna coach the running backs and we're gonna do it, no, you're gonna do it the way that fits into our offense, right? And you need to be willing to learn those things and make it your own and teach it very well. So I just think the ability to to learn and wanting to and be willing to, and then have the ability to teach to others. I think that's one of the most important things when hiring young coaches.
And then the last question I ask everybody: was there a question you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
That question you were expecting me. I would say when you're talking about running backs, I was thinking you're going to ask me about like Ricky Gales, up here. That's the trophy I get a lot over here, right? It's like, I never won a Heisman trophy. Why do I have a Heisman replica, right? So a lot of people do ask about that trophy. That's why I love to have it right there for sure. He was a small college player of the year, back in the late 80s from that side. But I would have told you the story of Ricky using that as a doorstop until he gave it back to the athletic department. So great guy. He actually just dropped in at our practice last fall, unannounced, most famous guy, only guy that's had his jersey retired at our place. He just shows up, just walking through the halls on a random Friday. I'm like, Ricky, you got to hang out for practice and come talk to our guy. So, the Ricky Gales trophy, that'd probably be the one.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time, sit down with us. I'm glad we could get you in the seat, and I hope that come November, December, you and I are still in communication, and we're, I'm shooting you a message saying, hey, go give them hell in the dance. So really, thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem at all. Glad to be here. Thanks for everything you do for college football, for sure.
I appreciate that, and we'll be right back, Chucklehead.
Put up now, we finna get busy. Put up now, we finna get busy. Put up now, finna get busy. Got some rides on inside the tizzy. I got Tootsie on the way, finna get dizzy. finna get listen. I really just wanna Percocet, I'm finna get busy. Yeah, by the dub inside Chanel, I'm finna go crazy. Who that is? Pop, but pull up on me, that Dre back. You right with for real, you not my twin. Hang up, build it up for the body, you not my bill. Yeah, drinking, that's my. I got money coming in different ways, I'm popping. Everything I imagined in my mind, I done accomplished it. I was serving chickens in the mail. How you want the double C, but no Chanel. It got me stupid, I'm a snail. In the club, this brown on me, I'm a rail. And my brother kid locked inside the gym, I got his bail. You too legit, everything I said is real as hell. If they can't even tell the real from the fake, I wish them well. Yeah, this song already was turned, but here's a bell.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.